Let's get started though. Basically inside of SolidWorks, talking about just kind of some specific things that those of you that may be interested machine design wise in SolidWorks. So kind of kicking off here and talking a little bit about display states. You know, if you're doing machine design, you're probably getting into some decent sized assemblies of that nature. So, you know, some things that I like to use are display states. Again, if you're not familiar with accessing display states in SolidWorks, basically if you go over here on the Config Manager tab in SolidWorks, these are your display states in your assembly. And a display state is kind of I kind of correlate it to a configuration for visibility and display. It's exactly what it is. So, you know, if I double click through these different guys, you know, I can hide and show parts in display states. Notice here I can actually set the display style of particular components differently. You know, so here I'm showing one in wireframe or shaded, hidden lines removed, whereas everything else is showing shaded still. So you can do those types of things quickly. You know, the biggest thing I'm usually using it for, though, is to hide and show parts quickly. You're typically not going to create a configuration to do that kind of stuff, and that's a good use of display states. You can come in here and just right-click, say add a display state, you know, just to show you here. You know, if I just rename it here a minute, just so you can see, maybe I'll call it test. And basically, if I just go do something in Solid, say I hide this part, you know, let's say I hide this guy here, right? You know, that's a part of this display state test right now. So if I go back to this one, they come back. If I go to my test display state, they'll disappear. Okay? So again, it's just kind of model management, really, is what we're getting at. What I like about that is when you create a display state, you don't have to toggle to that tab if you're not aware. You can actually access them right here. It's this little doodad arrow here that not many people really understand what this does, but basically if I right-click on that little arrow, I can access the display states right from here. So I can quickly toggle to a different display state without having to actually go over to the Config Manager to do that. Okay? So that's kind of your 50,000-foot view of display states. There's a lot of other great things that you can do, especially if you get into really large assemblies with display states. You know, if I were to save this, just to show you, and do a file open in SolidWorks, I'm not going to see this through because I already have this open, but you could open your models directly to a display state if you weren't aware of that. So a few years back in SolidWorks, 2010 maybe about, we added this ability, and I tell a lot of my customers to use this with big assemblies, so I could open right to the motor gearbox, and what I could do then is check a box in 2012 that says do not load hidden components. So basically all the parts that I had hidden won't load into RAM, and it's kind of a unique method they've written. SolidWorks has kind of wrote into the program where it's kind of like suppress, but it preserves the mates. That's always what people didn't want to suppress parts was because they'd lose the mates, whereas a display state doesn't lose the mates. So just something to keep in mind. That's kind of a bonus there. Those of you that maybe have come to a power user event at Fisher Unitech before, I know we've discussed that in years past. We can kind of dust those things off if you had additional questions. So display states is one thing here.